out this Home Office report suggesting that deporting illegal Channel migrants to Rwanda will cost £169,000 each. They say, though, it won't really cost all that much because there is a saving as well. So they're not paying for the hotel costs and the like of £106,000 for 4 years in a hotel. I mean, I don't know why they picked 4 years randomly. So the net cost, they say, will be £63,000. It's still a huge amount of money. It doesn't include legal aid or all of that. This, by the way, is a new report from the Women and Equalities Committee, which is frankly just a joke. They have said that new illegal migration laws should not allow the detention or deportation of children to Rwanda. But also they want the translators working for the Channel migrants to require... I can't even say this with a straight face. The translators that we pay for the illegal Channel migrants to fight the law trying to deport them that we support because we know it's got public support, they want the translators to be required to have LGBT sensitivity training. Why? Because they don't want them to affect asylum claims with their unconscious bias. We live in a joke country, people. We live in a joke country. They are not taking us seriously. This is something recommended by democratically elected MPs on a committee. This is what they've spent their time doing, a report on this. They are taking the mick out of you and out of me and out of every single taxpayer and every single person who's trying to get on the housing ladder, every single person who's trying to get their kid into a half-decent school, every single person trying to get a GP appointment, every single person trying to get treatment in hospital and waiting 2 years for it, going to A&E and sitting there overnight to get treatment. They are taking the mick. And I'm using a polite word. That's not the word I'm thinking in my head or you're thinking in your head. These MPs are an absolute joke. Let's talk about this with Simon Danchuk. He's a former Labour MP and joins us. Good morning to you, Simon.
Good morning.
You've been renowned over the years for speaking out on many issues that, and then getting labelled a baddie for speaking out, often representing what, let's face it, most ordinary people think you're not in this weird little Westminster bubble or Islington dinner party set. My audience are getting in touch pretty much to a man and a woman saying, A, it'll cost more to keep them here, B, we need a deterrent, and C, happy to contribute, send me the bill. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. I agree with your audience. I'm traditional Labour. I take the view that we should be tough on illegal immigration, tough on benefit cheats. That was a common held view in the Labour Party when I joined it. Things have changed somewhat since then. But I support the Rwandan model, and one of the reasons I support it is because I've spent a lot of time in Rwanda and I know what it's like as a country. I have a house, I have a home in Rwanda, and I think it's a policy that could really work. We need to break the people smugglers' business model.
Absolutely.
And by sending people to Rwanda, that would do it.
And again, you actually have to send somebody, and it needs to be more than just a couple of flights. That's a crucial thing. And that is a very interesting point that you, through your partner, do have a home in Rwanda. We're told by many that this is some awful godforsaken country that, absolutely, it's hell on earth. How can we possibly send people there? And yet we're told these people are fleeing hell on earth in France. I can't keep up.
Yeah, well, the reality, I think there's actually some racism on the part of those people who condemn Rwanda. It's actually a very compassionate country. They have lots of experience of dealing with migrants because of their history. It's an exceptionally well-run country, very efficient, very well policed. Very safe. It's one of the safest countries in Africa. And the reality is that if we send illegal immigrants there, they will be cared for to an extent, but they will also have to look after themselves. They won't have the sort of care and luxuries that they...
Well, I mean, a lot of them aren't. When we say they're not having luxuries. I mean, you're on a pittance in terms of the money you've got as spending money when you're in your hotel. But often you obviously often get food in your hotel and food provided for you when you're in any of these migrant centres. I mean, look, none of it's ideal. I think we can safely say, and there will be some legitimate claimants, and even those who are simply economic migrants, a family from some, either war-torn or just miserable country wanting a better life for themselves. I've got a lot of sympathy for those people. I don't hate them. I don't fear them. I just think, sorry, the reality is we're full. You're not our problem is kind of my response to this. And yet we know that the sort of the bleeding heart Liberals seem to think, and certainly the modern Labour Party, that the doors should be wide open. I mean, that's the trouble, isn't it? And whenever I ask any current Labour MP, and certainly on the front bench, OK, so how many should we let stay? They never give me a number.
Well, and they never come up with a solution. That's the problem.
No, they're going to talk to France. No, they're going to have talks with France, and then it's all solved.
Yes, exactly. And that clearly isn't enough. And what the Rwandan proposal does is it redirects people, a proportion of those illegal immigrants, to a country in Africa, and it shows the people smugglers that their business model doesn't work. Yeah. And I think that is a real positive. And it hasn't been tried, and we should try it. Why wouldn't we try it?
Exactly.
And we should support it.
And it's a huge cost.
MP should support it.
Yeah, I mean, it is an absolutely huge cost. This bill, the illegal migration bill, it's got through the Commons, of course, with the Tory majority. And although there were battles on both the left and the right of the Tory party over various measures. And they're only going to allow, for instance, children to be deported in exceptional circumstances. It's not going to be the norm, they made very clear, but we'll talk about that in a moment. But it's still making its way through the House of Lords. Who knows if it ever does get into law, and then the Rishi Sunak is going to stand up on this issue or not. But you and I both know the obvious solution is President Macron simply says, yeah, absolutely, any migrants who leave Calais, you can just simply put them back on the boat and literally you take them back and we will take them back. Because those people aren't going to make their way to the beachfront in Calais if they know that they are not going to be able to get to the UK. And France will have less of a migrant problem because they don't want to stay in France because it's not a welcoming country to migrants. It's much harder to live there. So, I mean, he would solve his own migrant problem at the same time. Why doesn't he do that?
Well, that's a good question, and only one that he can answer. But you're absolutely right.
I think we know the answer.
The ideal solution is to not have the boats coming over in the first place. And we have to bear in mind that we're actually talking about the illegal immigrants that we actually identify. Many are coming over in lorries and in boats and aren't identified or picked up by the authorities and just disappear into the ether, which is the UK. Yeah,
absolutely. I must ask you also about this report from the Women and Equalities Committee, chaired by supposedly Tory MP Caroline Noakes. It's extraordinary. They're basically saying that the new law should not allow the detention of children and it should not allow the deportation to Rwanda of children. Of course, as we know, that will just simply mean that great, you turn up with a kid, fine, you're not going to be separated as a father and child. People smugglers will sell a ticket on a boat. Here you go, £4,000 to get on the dinghy. Another £4,000 will provide you with a child and some paperwork. And we know that's already happening, don't we?
Yeah, and let's be clear about this. I talked with some authority on this. I was the MP for Rochdale. Rochdale takes more asylum seekers than the vast majority of other towns and cities in the United Kingdom. So I would come across and meet at my surgery a good number of people who were claiming asylum. Let's be clear about this. Some of them purport to be children when they aren't actually children. They're actually over 16 or over 18.
Over 30 in some cases.
Absolutely, and this is the reality of it. And I don't understand the work of these committees. Sometimes they are sort of blind or out of touch. They're blind to the reality of the situation. And it would help if they took a more candid view of what's going on in our country.
Do you think maybe they're blinded by the fact that they live in cloud cuckoo land? Because they've also said in this report, this Women and Equalities Committee, that the translators who are employed to translate for the migrants should be required to have LGBT sensitivity training so that they don't affect asylum claims with their unconscious bias. I managed to say all of that with a straight face, Simon.
Yeah, well, I just don't think that should be the priority for the Home Office or the people that are working in it. I think the priority should be returning people back to their country of origin, and we're not very good at that. We accept far too many asylum seekers in this country. People from Albania, Germany doesn't accept any asylum seekers from Albania, and we accept thousands.
Absolutely. Simon Danczuk talking so much sense then. I wish he was still an MP. Maybe we wouldn't be quite so worried about the next Labour government if he was still an MP.